Mr. Rollins, it's Maureen.
Hi, Maureen.
Do you want me to transfer you over as a panelist?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And I also wanted to note before all this starts that I will be recording this, and I would like it recorded, so.
It's being reported by a certified court reporter.
Yes, ma'am.
I believe we have a quorum.
I believe we do also, let me just, there's Commissioner Covington. Good morning. All right. I see, okay, we do. We're ready to go.
Okay. This is Fire Commission Special Meeting, March 3rd, 2022, and the time is 9:31. This meeting is being held by WebEx pursuant to the governor's executive orders and the mayoral proclamations declaring the existence of a local emergency. During the coronavirus disease emergency, the Fire Commission's regular meeting room at City Hall is closed, and meetings of the Fire Commission will convene remotely. To join the meeting, use the link on the posted agenda. To participate during public comment, please call 1-415-655-0001 and use access code 2484 808 0516. Members of the public will have opportunities to participate during public comment. The public is asked to wait for the particular agenda item before making a comment on that item. Comments will be addressed in the order they are received. When the moderator announces that the commission is taking public comment, members of the public can raise their hand by pressing star 3, and you will be queued. Callers will hear silence when waiting for your turn to speak. Operator will unmute you. When prompted, callers will have the standard 3 minutes to provide comment. Please ensure you are in a quiet location, speak clearly, and turn off any TVs or radios around you. Item 1, roll call. President Catherine Feinstein.
Present.
Vice President Stephen Nakajo.
Present.
Commissioner Francie Covington.
Present.
Commissioner Army Morgan.
Present.
And did you want to do further introductions before I call item 2?
Yes, please, if I just may. We also are joined by, in addition to the commissioners who just responded to roll call, we are joined by the chief of the department, Janine Nicholson. We are joined by Ms. Stoughton, who is counsel for the department. We are joined by Captain Rollins, who is representing Firefighter Beers, and our commission counsel, Mr. Brad Russey. Also, this matter is being recorded by a certified court reporter. And if I might, Madam Court Reporter, get your name for your record.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Demand.
And can you spell your last name for us, please?
Yeah, it's Dammann.
All right, very good. And Firefighter Beers is also present. I think I have gotten everybody. Obviously, the commission secretary is present since we've already heard from her. And I think we are, unless and I've missed anybody, we are ready to proceed to item 2.
Item 2, case number 2021-06, hearing and deliberations on verified complaint filed with the Commission by Chief of Department. On November 3rd, 2021, Chief of Department Janine Nicholson filed a verified complaint with the Fire Commission against member for a non-disciplinary separation. This case may be heard in closed session pursuant to Government Code, Section 54957B, and San Francisco Administrative Code, Section 67.1.10B. Members of the public may comment on all matters pertaining to Agenda Item 2 and whether to consider the matter in closed session. Government Code Section 54954.3A and Administrative Code Section 67.15B.
All right, thank you. And public comment.
There is members of the public. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Good morning, Commission.
Your time starts now.
I would like to talk about the bias of the Fire Commission and the board's lack of autonomy from the mayor. It is clear from the past hearings that the fate of these employees is predetermined. I do not think anyone would deny the vaccines, mandates, and their effectiveness are political. They are some of the most polarizing and political issues in today's society, but we are not here for politics, or shouldn't be anyway. We are here to ensure these employees are afforded due process. It is becoming increasingly obvious that a fair trial is impossible because each one of you is beholden to the mayor. The mayor who has made it clear that she wants us gone. It is so unfortunate that politics are controlling here and not justice. There are many reasons why this board is compromised when it comes to the obligation to be impartial, but I'll focus on one of the most important reasons. A 2016 article written by Ted Goldberg from KQED, the Board of Supervisors president at the time, now Mayor Lennon Breed, was quoted as saying the following about the appointments of fire commissioners. It is important that we have a body that doesn't feel like they have to make the mayor happy in order to keep their seat. We have to be people who are independent. Goldberg goes on to compare the police and fire commission. According to the city charter, the fire commission should consist of 5 members, and the mayor has the power to replace any of them. Compare that to San Francisco Police Commission, which has 7 members. 4 nominated by the mayor and 3 by the Board of Supervisors. Supervisors can confirm or reject members of the police oversight body and can remove members they have nominated. No disrespect meant by this comment, but the fact is the members of the Fire Commission and the chief are appointed by the person who is driving this process, and that fact makes you mere puppets of her desires. You do not do as you do. If you do not do as you're told, you'll be gone. We all know this. Believe it or not, I sympathize with the display of cowardice that is before us. I know firsthand that it does not feel good to be discarded like a piece of trash, and I completely understand your willingness to sacrifice your position in society for a bunch of strangers who have made to be out selfish civil servants. I think you know in your hearts this is not true, that the playbook has a lot of holes in it. Yet you all seem to be moving forward with this plan like it makes sense at this point. It is very obvious that you are not allowed to operate outside the political playbook that has been pre-written for you. Yep.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is a firing commission. Thank you for taking my call. A couple days ago, the FDA finally released a list of adverse reactions. Pfizer and the FDA were forced to do this. Anybody can look this up for themselves. It is called the Cumulative Analysis of Post-Authorization Adverse Events. Please keep in mind that these side effects would have been kept confidential. There are 9 pages of adverse reactions equaling hundreds of side effects. I wanted to bring this up because this is a first required release of these documents. I urge the Fire Commission to do your due diligence before you liquidate anyone else. This is the least you can do. Remember, these first responders showed up for a year and a half with only personal protective equipment, no vaccine, and no guarantee of safety. Show some leadership and do what is right. Make no mistake, more is being revealed. What side of history do you want to be on?
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes.
Your time starts now.
The mission statement of the San Francisco Fire Department says, in a part of it, free workplace of harassment and discrimination. Commissioners, ask yourselves, is any attempt to accommodate these firefighters was ever made? Telling firefighters to get vaccinated is not an attempt to accommodate them. Ask yourselves, what changed? These firefighters worked through the height of the pandemic with no vaccine in sight and the quote-unquote minimum safety requirements. Why is it necessary to fire them now? 100% of the department is vaccinated. City and County of San Francisco is 84% vaccinated. Why more restrictive? The city is opening up again. Mandates are being rescinded all over the Bay Area and the country. COVID positive nurses and staff are working at UC Parnassus. If COVID positive nurses can enter high risk settings, surely firefighters that are COVID negative can enter the facility briefly to drop off patients or assist staff there. No laws need to be changed. No health orders need to be amended. Don't fool yourselves. This commission hearings and firing these firefighters is anything short but the Spanish Inquisition or other kangaroo courts that we have seen in the past. Please make the right choices. Ask yourselves the real questions and ask the chief the real questions. What accommodations were ever, if ever, provided to these firefighters? Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Christopher Salas, retired fireman from San Francisco under duress. I direct my comment to Commissioner Morgan. I was extremely disappointed with your biased attack on Jeff Chadwick yesterday at the predetermined commission hearing. I cannot believe that you actually called a dedicated public servant selfish. In addition to that, you misrepresented the facts of the COVID pandemic. For example, you mentioned close to 1 million COVID deaths, which all caring human beings admits is sad. However, the CDC, aka the corrupt Department of Coercion, has admitted to hiding the actual data from the American public. The CDC now admits over half of so-called COVID deaths were with COVID, not from COVID. Comorbidities were the real reasons for the deaths. Additionally, the CDC now acknowledges that vaccinated are more susceptible to new COVID variants than unvaccinated, and that the vaccinated account for the vast majority of hospitalizations in the United States of America. The CDC reasons for hiding these facts from the American public are they thought it would make people of the United States not want to take a vaccine that does not work. They got that right. Please refer to the New York Post article I sent to the question section yesterday to all of you, dated February 27th of this year. Science also says that 98.8% of healthy individuals with healthy immune systems recover from COVID with no lingering effects. 98.6%. with their God-given immune systems. I hope and pray all of you have been enlightened, especially you, Commissioner Morgan. Remember, if the CDC's reasoning for vaccines is flawed, so is the city's health order and the chief's general order. Thank you.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, your time starts now.
Thank you. Most of this isn't for the chief. I'm kind of unprepared, but I know I've met the chief. Very smart woman, and a great way about her. But after listening yesterday, it's getting pretty frustrating. The commission, this should be about working within the law and the health order and the general order to accommodate people with sincerely held religious beliefs or valid medical exemptions. But what is painfully clear is this is about intolerance. The powers that be, and unfortunately some of these commissioners, the city attorney for sure, made a decision that they could not tolerate unvaccinated members with sincerely held religious beliefs or medical exemptions. Not that they couldn't accommodate them. This is obvious in some of the ridiculous things we've had to listen to. One being questioning a man's sincerely held religious beliefs based on a statement the Pope said in an article of a newspaper. Another one being a commissioner asking if you're going to hold a gun to a head of a resident or take the shot, what are you going to do? This is inferring that people that are fully vaccinated can't transmit COVID. Are these people the last people on God's green earth that don't know that? Do you want me to read the quote that was all submitted as evidence? Rochelle Walensky, what the vaccines can't do anymore is prevent transmission. Dr. Anthony Fauci, we know as a fact that vaccinated people with COVID are capable of transmitting the infection to someone else. So am I stupid enough to believe that the hundreds of vaccinated symptomatic members of the fire department can't transmit it to someone else? That's why they're offered masking and testing. Even the vaccinated are. So why can't the unvaccinated be? We have commissioners comparing Ebola to COVID. What are the death rates of those two, I please ask you? Dowden said yesterday in the closing arguments the health order is the only science and evidence. That's ridiculous. There's been tons of evidence submitted. Obviously, no one's reading it. This obviously isn't my point. Please go back to my fire commission. My point is the obvious discrimination and lack of accommodation offered to these firefighters. I've worked with Jessica. Here we go. Firing another female Christian woman firefighter. If you look at this, it's kind of interesting that this last group of us are more diverse than San Francisco, more diverse than the fire department in general. But just to let these theologians know, here is what is Catholic teaching and what is Christian teaching, what is in the Catechism and in the Bible.
Time is up. I believe there's one more. Caller, would you like to make public comment? Caller?
Hello.
Would you like to make public comment?
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Though I know this is all falls to deaf ears, I want to say, I think this board should be ashamed of themselves for constantly hiding behind this outdated joke of a health order that will be mentioned a million times in all these hearings. This circus isn't even about a pandemic or a health order. It's all about control and money. You know it, you know it. This pandemic is so dangerous and deadly that since we've been separated, our California governor, LA mayor, San Francisco mayor, and the chief of the department herself have been consistently seen without a mask. And yet you guys have the audacity to destroy our lives and unlawfully terminate us without even any proper due process. All you guys hiding in this outdated umbrella of a joke health order. making decisions on our lives while the rest of the world is dropping all their mandates. I want you all to remember, we, the ones that you're unlawfully terminating, made it possible for you to sit in your seat. We protected the city, the citizens of the city that paid. It's your weak city leadership that's ruining the city. That's why San Francisco is now one of the worst cities in the nation due to poor leadership. Pathetic, to say the least. Good leaders raise leaders. Bad leaders raise followers. Your commissioner president has made public biased comments. She knows herself she shouldn't be here making judgments that affect our lives. She should be removed, period. But she won't, because all this is all corrupt. We battled and are still battling without any help from the city, department, our 798 executive board. We're completely on our own. You actually don't even deserve us. We all know how this is going to end. Well, I even have those deliberations, all predetermined. Go back to your broken tape recorder and joke up a help order. I will close by saying my name is Michael Cricket. Once a trial San Francisco Firefighter Station 41. My hearing will be, to be unlawfully terminated, will be March 16th. And I say this for all of us fighting for our freedoms and liberties and holding the line with you. Hold your head up high and look at these people in the eye. These people paint this picture of us that's not going to be our legacy. If they don't define us. And for the board, my message to you, remember our faces. We're not done. By far, we're just beginning. God bless us all. See you on the 16th.
And I'm sorry, this is a court reporter, and that call is not going to be transcribed very well because I could barely hear it. Just for the record.
All right, thank you.
Caller, do you want to make public comment?
Yes.
Your time starts now.
Good morning, commissioners, chief staff, officers, fellow firefighters. We meet today with bittersweet emotions to discuss the future lives of a firefighter, and to paint a picture of Jessica Beers, regardless of vaccination status or religious practice. In particular, I would like to share my personal experience I had with her. The San Francisco Fire Department has established a trade policy where two members are able to mutually agree to work for each other. This only works when both sides follow through with the agreement. In my situation, along with at least two other firefighters who had agreements with Jessica, weren't so smooth. In fact, it was careful, malicious, and calculated attack against her fellow firefighters. The following events occurred during COVID era, where there was a vaccination deadline. Because Jessica did not plan on getting the vaccine, she knew she would be put on administrative leave. However, she led others to assume that she'll be returning in November. According to one firefighter, the trades were already recorded in the books. However, Jessica canceled the trade and worked an overtime shift instead. Another firefighter had to switch dates. However, Jessica elected to work an overtime shift instead of repaying her debt. When I, in particular, asked her to repay my trade on September 26th, she stated that she was busy and to send her dates in November. Upon looking up her schedule, she did it yet again, worked another overtime shift instead of repaying her debt. I've sent her messages requesting her to repay, and I even sent her a formal letter to settle before I commenced the legal proceedings, yet she never responded a single word. Looking at her trade summary, it shows that she had an outstanding balance of at least 8 trades prior to her administrative leave. Is this the type of person you want representing San Francisco Fire Department? Is this the type of person you want knocking at your door? Is this a person you can work with for the next 20 years, knowing she stared you straight in the eyes and said, "Remember the one time that I screwed you on the trade?" Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.
You. Caller, would you like to make public comment? Caller? Would you like to make public?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, your time starts now.
Thank you. I'm a resident and voter in San Francisco, and I'm strongly opposed to terminating any city employees based on their personal decisions to vaccinate or not vaccinate. I've lived in San Francisco for well over a decade. My family's from San Francisco, and I've always been so proud of the diversity that we do embrace in San Francisco. Threatening to terminate or terminating an employee based on their own personal decisions, especially if it's a medical decision or a religious belief, goes against everything that San Francisco claims to stand for while embracing diversity. Also, as a taxpayer, I see this as a huge liability for the city, and I don't want my tax dollars going towards such wrongful termination. And in the era that we're in, where we're seeing infrastructure threatened, losing one more firefighter or losing one more police officer puts the public, myself included, as well as my family and friends, at a much greater risk. That's all.
Thank you.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes. Your time starts now.
Okay, thank you. Starting off for the record, the individual who called a few callers ago who was not able to be officially recorded, I would respectfully request that they be given the opportunity to readdress, restate their comment so that it can be recorded for the record. The other thing that I want to say is I think there's a trend going on with these hearings. I will say that it is up to the fire department and their representation to provide a preponderance of evidence demonstrating how these firefighters and EMT are a legitimate threat or pose an endangerment to the people that they serve. I've seen multiple cases. There's been a preponderance of evidence delivered by those who are being tried, but there has not been a preponderance of evidence in any way, shape, or form from the fire department or their representation. It all falls back on they just didn't follow the rules. This is a non-disciplinary separation case. It's a non-disciplinary separation case. So therefore, we need to have the San Francisco Fire Department and representation show that these firefighters are an endangerment to the people they serve, because those are the charges levied against them. Now think about this. You have had plenty of time to look at all this evidence that people have provided to you. Eventually, if you look outside of the city of San Francisco, there's a lot of momentum going in these firefighters' favor. You need to take a look at what's actually happening in the realistic nature of what's going on. Evidence and facts prove over, a group of people sitting with their heads buried in the sand, not willing to do anything about, the wrongdoing that's happening to these firefighters. Eventually, this will become taboo. When you think about firing good firefighters, it will become taboo. So when people are at their expensive dinner parties rubbing elbows with their friends, you will never have the excuse of saying, oh, I never really agreed with it, or I just didn't know, because now you have the evidence. So I want you to know I'll continue to pray for you, and that you open your mind, because this is very serious. We're talking about families, kids, friends. I suggest that you
Your time is up.
take a serious look.
I believe that is it for public comment.
All right, thank you, Madam Secretary. Public comment.
Brad has
I'm sorry, Mr. Russi, I didn't see you. Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Maureen, I think someone else just popped up to give public comment.
I went through the list 3 times. Do you know what number it is?
Lacey?
Okay, hold on. They don't come in on order, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Lacey Diaz?
Well, and just
I don't have a hand showing for Lacey.
The person also commented in the comment section that she has an unstable cell phone connection and requested to make public comment in the comment section.
Okay. Her hand wasn't up. It is now.
Yes,
okay.
hi.
I just need to say for those that don't know, the commissioners can't see this. Mr. Russi can see it and Ms. Conifrey can see it, but we can't see how many people are there, whether they have their hand up or not. So, just please be aware of that. Wait, Captain Rollins, are you saying that you believe somebody is awaiting and able to give public comment that they have the ability to do so now?
I believe we're talking about the same person that Mr. Russi brought up.
I see.
The comment popped up in the comment section.
Okay, your 3 minutes starts now.
Yes, hi, my name is Lacey Diaz. I don't know if you can all hear me. I'm actually a concerned community member and would like to just make a public comment addressing some serious policy changes that I think would be detrimental to not only the individuals being put in positions that they should not be put in, but also the community at large. I think we can all agree that the science is not settled when it comes to the data and outcome from vaccination. And I think that with the most recent data coming out from the Pfizer in the clinical trials demonstrates that there is a lot to be desired when it comes to the efficacy of the vaccine. I think we all had the understanding that, myself included, that this vaccine would have been have the ability to stop and prevent the spread of COVID, but as we are now seeing, that is not true. The vaccine only protects the person, and at best, it lowers your incidence of hospitalization and death. It does not protect the other person from contracting COVID from the vaccinated person, which I think making public policy changes due to this just very fundamental understanding puts a burden of proof on those that are unvaccinated versus those that are vaccinated, saying that they are the only ones that are at risk, when in reality we all still have a risk. That individual may have gotten the vaccine and maybe their risk is lowered, but I don't think it's substantial enough to say that across the board every person must follow that same policy. I think the community members can still get COVID from a vaccinated person and it can still be spread. I think that making policy changes for firefighters would be an inappropriate move to make based on that knowledge and forthcoming data demonstrating the efficacy of this vaccine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I believe that concludes.
That's fine. I just want to confirm it on the record that is your determination. So we will proceed in open session. And I just have to say the only exception to that, although it has not come up, but it could come up, is that under Section 7D of the Commission's rules, the Commission is empowered to hold some or all of the hearing in closed session for reasons such as third-party privacy rights or where disclosure of certain information is prohibited under the law. As I said, that has not come up in these hearings, but I feel duty-bound to tell you that I suppose it is a possibility. Let me ask, does the department have any response to closed session or open session?
The department has no objection to what the member has chosen.
Thank you. Good. So just confirming, we will continue in open session. Now, the one time that we may not continue in open session is during deliberations. We will take up whether to deliberate in closed session as a separate matter with a vote at when we're done with the evidentiary portion of the hearing. Just to go through very quickly the hearing procedures and filings. We have the pre-hearing filings. The city has filed 2 exhibits, and Firefighter Beers has commend her on putting together a fine binder according to the rules. We do have your binder with its exhibits tabbed, as well as your written pre-hearing statement. So I just want to acknowledge that we have both sides having submitted that which we discussed at the case management conference. Next, I want to just give a little bit of an overview of the proceedings themselves. We did talk about this at the case management conference, but I do need to have it reflected in the official record. And that is that the way we proceed is each party presents an opening statement. The department will go first, and you, Firefighter Beers, have the option. You can make your opening statement right after the department makes theirs, or you have the option of waiting till the evidentiary portion is complete and then making your statement at the beginning of your case. So, and you don't have to, well, you do have to make that selection now. So I know whether I'm going to go from the city attorney to you, or we're going to wait until after evidence is presented. So you're going to need to just, while you think about this while I run through these other rules that everybody has heard many times, but I wanted you to be apprised of it. After opening statements, the department that bears the burden of proof will present its case. Then the member will present her case, and by that I mean the evidence that they wish to introduce into the hearing. The department then has an opportunity, as bearing the burden of proof, to present rebuttal evidence. Each party, when evidence is being presented in a testimonial fashion, has the right to cross-examine the other party's witnesses, and only one person can do the cross-examination. So between Captain Rollins and Firefighter Beers, I'm going to ask you each time who wishes to question the city's witness, and you two are going to need to make that decision. Once the witness testimony is done and any exhibits or other evidence is considered and admitted or not, Closing argument is then given. The department again goes first, and then closing argument is made by the member or by Captain Rollins. Again, your choice, but it's one or the other of you. And finally, the department is given a few minutes if they have any rebuttal evidence. Objections. If while their questioning is going on, if you have an objection to the testimony that's being presented, you should state you have an objection and the grounds of your objection. I will then allow the opposing party to respond to your objection and make a final determination. If I sustain an objection, it means the witness will not answer the question. If I overrule the objection, the witness will answer the question. One thing that's important, as you know, we've been at this for a while. If any party at any time, and by that I mean anybody that's present here on the screen, needs a recess or a break, please just raise your hand so I can see it. Probably like you, I'm looking at a number of rectangles, and I want to accommodate everybody, but I need to make sure I see you. I would ask if you want to take a brief recess, please make the request in between witnesses. I don't want to interfere with the flow of witness testimony when the witness is in the middle of that testimony. So just between either direct and cross or between witnesses would be a good time to make your request for a recess. And I think at this time, we are getting ready. I think we're ready to go. I'm checking my list here. It is formally required, Firefighter Beers, that under Rule 11A of the procedural rules, that we must ask that you enter a plea, which means that I'm asking whether or not you agree or disagree with the chief's stated reason for requesting your separation.
I disagree with her request to separate us.
Thank you. All right, that will be entered. All right.
Commissioner Feinstein, if you will,
Yes.
The questions that you had, I will be making very brief opening statements for Firefighter Beers. I would respectfully request that the balance of time that is not used in the opening statement be allocated to Firefighter Beers in addition to the 5 minutes for her closing statement. I will be conducting the cross-examination in the matter, and unless Firefighter Beers and I need to sidebar regarding anything, Firefighter Beers will be making the closing statement in this matter.
All right. We can accommodate that. Ms. Conifrey, is keeping her clock. I think everybody can see it. So I will allow you to split your time, basically, your 5 minutes on opening statement. Is there an objection by the city attorney to that?
There is no objection.
All right. Okay. Then that's how we will proceed. And thank you for letting me know ahead of time. If it slips my mind, please, Captain Rollins, just remind me that you're going to be doing the cross. And of course, that's just fine. All right. So, is there any other preliminary items that I need to address, or anybody would like me to address before we get started? Again, I'm not seeing any hands. So I believe we are ready for the department's opening statement.
Good morning, Commissioners. The question before the Fire Commission is whether to uphold the Chief's recommendation for a non-disciplinary separation for firefighter Jessica Beers for her failure to comply with the vaccination requirement of the city's health order, as well as General Order 21A-70. The health order was issued by the city's health officer to address the COVID-19 pandemic and states, and I'm quoting, "Vaccination is the most effective method to prevent transmission and ultimately COVID-19 hospitalizations and death." Together, the health order and the general order require employees such as firefighter Beers who may enter or work in high-risk settings to be fully vaccinated by October 13th, 2021, unless they received an approved exemption due to a disability or sincerely held belief. Personal beliefs exemptions were not permitted under the health order. In this case, firefighter Beers did not request an accommodation either based on religion or a medical disability. Even though firefighter Beers did not request a religious exemption, and it is irrelevant, it's important to note that the health order cautioned there were some instances where an unvaccinated employee could not continue to work in a high-risk setting, even if they otherwise qualified for an exemption and could be masked at all times as required and undergo the weekly testing that was required as minimum safeguards set forth in the health order. The health order laid out several factors to consider when analyzing whether an unvaccinated employee working in a high-risk setting could be accommodated, even if they could establish that they had a sincerely held belief or a qualifying medical disability. The first factor was whether the unvaccinated employee will place other people at risk of transmission of COVID-19 because they are required to come into contact, including on an emergency basis, with other personnel or with persons whose vaccination status is unknown, who are not yet eligible for the vaccine, or who are members of a vulnerable population. Another factor was whether the employer can ensure compliance with the mask mandate whenever the unvaccinated employee is around other people in the workplace. And finally, whether the proposed accommodation imposes an undue burden because it is costly, it infringes on other employees' job rights or benefits, it compromises workplace safety, it decreases workplace efficiency, or it requires other personnel to do more than their share of potentially hazardous or burdensome work. And again, in this case, firefighter Beers did not request an exemption from the health order. And so the accommodation issue is irrelevant. But it's still important to note that the chief of the department determined that under the health order, that the department could not accommodate even those employees who could establish or who did apply for a religious exemption because of the risk to members of the public and other departmental employees. So the facts before the Fire Commission today are undisputed. The health order and general order requires firefighter Beers to be vaccinated unless she has a valid exemption. Firefighter Beers, again, did not apply for an exemption to the vaccination requirement. Firefighter Beers was not fully vaccinated as defined by the health order by October 13th, 2001. It is undisputed then that firefighter Beers did not comply with the health order or the general order and is not permitted to work in high-risk settings. The validity of the health order is not an issue in these proceedings. The health officer issued the health order under the mandates available to her under law. Neither the San Francisco Fire Department nor the Fire Commission have jurisdiction or authority to ignore or change the health officer's mandates. Firefighter Beers' disagreement with the health order, with the requirements of the health order, or with the science underlying the health order is irrelevant for these proceedings and is beyond the jurisdiction of the Fire Commission to adjudicate. Despite being aware of her obligation to comply with the health order and general order and the consequences of not doing so, Firefighter Beers made the choice not to get vaccinated. The department asks that the Fire Commission therefore uphold the non-punitive separation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stoughton. Captain Rollins, would you like to proceed first in your portion of the opening statement?
Yes,
or would
please.
you like Firefighter Beers to go first?
Yeah, I'll proceed with just very brief statements. And just before my time starts, please excuse any background noise that may be occurring while I'm speaking. I'm actually at work today, so if you hear anything and I have to stop, it's because there's background noise.
We will make note of that, and it's certainly understood. So please proceed.
Great, thank you, commissioners. We're here in the matter of firefighter Jessica Beers today, a dedicated firefighter who served throughout the pandemic, served faithfully, came to work not knowing the risk that she was potentially posing to her family, and served faithfully. It was stated in the opening statements by the department that firefighter Beers did not apply for an exemption. That is the case because firefighter Beers unfortunately did not receive the paperwork until the day after it was due. So in fact, no, she did not make application because she was unable to due to the timing of receipt of the paperwork. We have submitted our exhibits and we will move that those be accepted as evidence at our time during the portion of our case. And I will stop there and I would request that the rest of the time be yielded to firefighter Beers for closing statements.
Thank you very much. And that request is granted. Firefighter Beers, please.
I think she's going to speak. She's going to give the closing statement. So I just requested that time be yielded to her for the closing arguments.
All right. That I'm sorry, I misunderstood. That's just fine. So, Madam Secretary, if you'll just make a note of it, we can add that to Firefighter Beers' time for closing statements.
I've noted that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And how much time do we have left?
So there's 3:59 that will go on to her 5-minute closing. So 8 minutes and 59 seconds.
Thank you.
Or 9 minutes, depending on how you look at it. Yes. Okay. Ms. Stoughton, are you ready to call your first witness?
I am. Thank you. The department calls Chief Nicholson.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Chief. I'm going to ask if you would kindly raise your right hand and also ask if the court reporter would please swear the chief as a witness.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, and if you'd kindly just state your full name and spell your full name for the record.
Jean Nicholson, Jeanine, Nichholson.
Thank you. Please proceed, Ms. Stoughton.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I am having a little bit of difficulty hearing Ms. Nicholson.
I can do that over. Can you hear me better now?
Oh, that's better, yes. I did get what you said, but it was very faint, so thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Good morning, Chief. Can you please turn to the documents in front of you in this matter? To City Exhibit 1, Bates number, it's Beers 0007.
Yes.
Okay, do you recognize this document?
I do. It is the order of the health officer regarding COVID-19 vaccination.
In the course of your duties as the chief of the department, did you review this document?
Yes.
And what did you understand the department's obligations to be under this health order?
That all of our members needed to be vaccinated, fully vaccinated by October 13th of 2021, which meant they had to have their final vaccination 2 weeks prior.
Chief, is the department obligated to comply with the health order?
Yes, we are.
Is the department able to change any of the health order's requirements?
No.
Is the department able to ignore any of the health order's requirements?
No.
Chief, did the health order define what it meant to be fully vaccinated?
Yes, it did.
Okay, and I'm happy to turn to still in City Exhibit 1, Bates number 9.
Okay.
And looking down at the bottom of the page at subsection K.
Yes.
Is this the definition that the department relied on to determine what it meant to be fully vaccinated?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell us what it meant to be fully vaccinated?
So, as I said, one would have to have their final dose of the vaccine 2 weeks prior to October 13th, 2021. So that could either be 2 weeks prior you get your Johnson & Johnson vaccine, or 2 weeks prior you have your second shot of Pfizer or Moderna.
Did the health order mandate certain rules for employees in high-risk settings?
Yes.
Still looking at City Exhibit 1, Chief, can you please turn to Bates number 18?
Yes.
And looking at subsection 6, entitled Vaccination Requirements for Personnel in High-Risk Settings and Other Healthcare Personnel. Do you see that provision?
I do.
Is this the provision in the health order that governed employees in high-risk settings?
Yes.
Did you determine that firefighters, such as Firefighter Beers, fell under the definition of an employee who works in a high-risk setting?
Yes.
Okay, and why is that?
He deals with people who we don't know their vaccination status. They could have, be immunocompromised and the like. So, she could end up at some point in her career going into a hospital or a skilled nursing facility or being back in an ambulance.
Is there any way the department could guarantee a firefighter could not enter a high-risk setting in the course of his or her job duties?
No.
In your view, as the chief of the department, would it endanger department operations if you had to assign firefighters to emergencies based on vaccination status?
Yes.
Okay. And why is that?
We need to show up for the public, fully staffed, and with all of our members ready to go to work. And if someone is not fully vaccinated, I can't lead them back from a particular call, or I can't tell them, this person can't get in the back of the ambulance to transport this person to the hospital. It's not possible.
In your view, as the chief of the department, can Firefighter Beers perform the essential functions of her position if she is not permitted to enter high-risk settings?
No.
Okay. Did the health order permit exemptions to the vaccination requirement?
Yes.
And do you recall what those were?
For medical disability and for a sincerely held religious belief.
Are you aware if Firefighter Beers submitted a request from an exemption from the vaccination requirement in the health order?
I have no knowledge that he did submit a request.
Did the health order contain guidance about how employers could accommodate unvaccinated employees in high-risk settings?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Sticking to that same city department exhibit 1, just turning the page to Bates number 0019.
Yes.
At the bottom of the page, at the subsection A, and then turning to the next page, B, C, and D.
Yes.
Are these the provisions of the health order that the department relied on in determining whether it could accommodate unvaccinated employees?
Yes.
Okay. What did you determine?
That we could not accommodate our employees. And if you read up at the top of page 13 on room number 4, you know, it says comply with at least the following public health and safety measures. So these are the minimum requirements.
Do firefighters such as firefighter Beers required to come into contact with persons whose vaccination status is unknown?
Yes.
Do they come into contact with persons who are not yet eligible for the vaccine?
Yes.
Do they come into contact in the course of their duties members of the vulnerable populations?
Yes.
Okay. Can the department ensure compliance with the mask mandate at all times for unvaccinated employees?
No, that would be pretty impossible to do.
Okay, and why is that?
I can't have someone, assigned to each individual overlooking them every single day to make sure that they are in compliance.
And do firefighters, such as firefighter Beers, sleep and eat in firehouses?
They do.
Did you determine whether firefighters could wear a mask during those times?
They cannot wear a mask at those times. It would be really, you wouldn't be able to eat for one, but, you wouldn't be able to necessarily sleep or guarantee that someone's going to wear their mask when they're sleeping.
Chief, did you have any role in analyzing whether a particular firefighter had a sincerely held religious belief or a qualifying medical disability?
No, I did not.
Chief, if you can turn to still at City Exhibit 1, Bates number 43.
Okay.
Chief, do you recognize this document?
Yes, it's a general order I signed back in August of 2021.
Okay, can you tell us? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, regarding the vaccination status reporting and the vaccination requirement and the timeline for it.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Can you tell us generally what a general order is?
A general order is a document that I issue to all members of the department that is required to be signed off on and understood and followed by our members.
Okay, are general orders distributed widely to the department?
Yes, they are distributed individually to each member, and then to stations, and they also get filtered down through the chain of command.
Are firefighters required to be familiar with and comply with general orders?
Yes, they are.
What did this particular general order do?
It mandated that our members initially report their vaccination status by a certain date, and that they be vaccinated by a certain date. And it laid out all those timelines for them.
Did firefighter Beers comply with this general order?
He did not get vaccinated.
In addition to the general order, did the department take any other steps to notify employees of their need to comply with the health order and the general order?
Yes, we did. We sent letters, emails. We had I had my staff conduct one-on-one meetings with each member that was not vaccinated, and we had phone calls made to each member that was not vaccinated or not being compliant.
Chief, if you can now turn to still in City Exhibit 1, Bates number 4.
Okay.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What is this document?
This is a letter from me to Firefighter Beers stating that she has not met the vaccination requirement, and that she needs to be fully vaccinated no later than October 13th.
Did this letter inform firefighter Beers of the consequences of not being vaccinated?
Yes.
Is this your signature at the bottom of the page, Chief?
Yes.
Did firefighter Beers comply with the health order's vaccination requirement?
No.
Okay. And how do you know that?
There was no information that we received that she had been vaccinated.
Chief, if you can look at, still at City Exhibit 1, Bates number 5.
Okay.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What is this document?
This is a letter to firefighter Beers stating that, it's a notice of non-disciplinary separation.
And looking halfway down the page, there's a series of boxes. The first one says FIR. Can you tell us what this is?
Yes, this was basically copy and pasted from our People and Pay portal, where our members were required to enter their vaccination status and the date of vaccination. And it basically says that firefighter Jess Beers is not vaccinated.
Does this mean that firefighter Beers herself reported that she was not vaccinated?
Yeah.
Following sending out this notice of non-disciplinary separation, did you hold an administrative meeting with firefighter Beers?
Yes.
Was she permitted to appear at the meeting and talk on her behalf?
Yes.
Was she permitted to bring a representative?
Yes.
Was she permitted to submit documentation on her behalf?
Yes.
Following that administrative meeting, did you recommend her for non-disciplinary separation?
Yes.
Turning to still in City Exhibit 1, it's Bates number 2. Chief, do you recognize this document?
Yes, it is a letter I sent to the Fire Commission recommending non-disciplinary separation for firefighter Beers.
Okay, and Chief, is this your signature on the second page?
Yes, it is.
Chief, if you can now turn to City Exhibit 2, which is Bates numbers 54 and 55.
Okay, I'm there.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, this is a document from the city Department of Human Resources to the president of Local 798 regarding COVID-19 vaccination policy and the health order.
Chief, did this agreement set forth the procedure for placing employees first on paid admin leave and then on unpaid admin leave following an administrative meeting?
Yes.
And did the department comply with this agreement in firefighter Beers' case?
Yes, we did.
Okay, no further questions.
All right. Thank you very much. And I believe, Captain Rollins, were you going to commence questioning Chief Nicholson? Was that your desire, sir?
Yes, I am.
All right, please proceed.
All right, Chief. To the best of your knowledge, did firefighter Beers, in the course of her duties, enter what the health order describes as high-risk settings?
Through her career, yes.
Okay. Has the department looked into firefighter Beers' run history, specifically during the pandemic, to determine whether she did enter any high-risk settings?
No.
Okay. Was that something that the department did in any particular member's case?
No, we did not, because at any time, any one of our members can be required to enter a high-risk setting.
Okay. To your knowledge, did firefighter Beers come in contact during the time of the pandemic with what is described as vulnerable populations?
I don't know. I know she worked throughout the pandemic. I would be making an assumption if I were to say yes or no.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, did firefighter Beers in the course of her duties come into contact with patients whose vaccination status was unknown?
I would imagine that she did, but I don't know.
Okay. Has the department received any complaints regarding firefighters Beers' conduct being risky or endangering any patients in any high-risk settings or any members of the public since the beginning of the pandemic?
No, I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Are you aware of firefighter Beers being coached or counseled, sanctioned, or written up by her superiors for non-compliance or defiance of any department general orders or directives regarding masking or social distancing during the pandemic?
The only general order she did not follow is the one that we discussed today about vaccine mandates. But no, I have no other information that she disobeyed any of the prior ones.
Okay. Are you aware? Excuse me for 1 second. Okay, sorry, there was a voiceover. Chief, are you aware of any members of the fire department who became infected with COVID-19 as a result of contact or interaction with firefighter Beers?
I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. You stated that firefighter Beers did not submit a request. Were you at all aware of the fact that firefighter Beers received the requested documents after the deadline had passed for those documents to be turned in?
So I had my staff go back and look, and they could find no email or request from firefighter Beers about an exemption request. And in addition, we have been processing medical and religious exemptions longer than whatever I believe the drop dead date was, because there were so many submitted. So we would have looked at it and had submitted it even after that date.
Okay. Turning to the city's health order, does the city's health order, as generated by the health officer, allow for masking and testing provisions?
Yes, as a minimum.
Okay. Did the department consider those particular provisions in the health order for our members?
Yes, we did, and it was determined that because of our interactions with public, we have public safety, that we were going to go with more than the minimum.
And are there areas of the department where our members work that potentially do not interact with persons in what the health order defines as high-risk settings?
So I'm just going to object for relevance grounds that this is about firefighter Beers, and obviously the chief can answer that as to firefighter Beers, but I'm not sure department-wide questions would be relevant.
I think it's a
I'm
relevant
going to go
question.
ahead and overrule the objection. So you may answer, Chief.
Lloyd, can you repeat it for me, thanks?
Yeah. Are there areas of the department of which firefighter Beers is a member that potentially members can and do work that do not interact with persons that may be in high-risk settings.
So if you're talking about the airport personnel not going into high-risk settings, and if you're defining high-risk settings such as like a nursing home or hospital or the like, while she may not have during her time at the airport, there is no guarantee that she will not in the future.
Okay. Are there places where members work within the department that potentially do not interact with vulnerable populations?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you very much. All right. Ms. Stoughton, did you?
There's no redirect. There's no redirect.
Okay. All right. All right. Then I'm just questioning, and I've been trained by court reporters who sit quietly throughout, but are working the whole time. And I've been trained well. So I would like to give the court reporter at this time a break. And how about I suggest 10 minutes? Is everybody all right with that?
President, Commissioner Feinstein, so just for planning purposes for our next witness,
yes.
Can I know if any commissioners will have questions for the chief, or can I tell our next witness to log in at 11?
Commissioners, does anybody have questions for the chief? I'm not seeing any hands, so yes, Commissioner Covington?
Yes, I might have a question or two for the chief.
Thank you.
All right, we'll do that first. Well, I hate to have the outside witness wait, but we'll do that. Commissioner Covington's questions first. So.
Yes, I said I may have some, but yes, thank you.
All right. All right. See everybody at 11. One person. No, there she is. We have everybody now. Madam Court Reporter, are you prepared to resume?
I am ready, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will allow, please, the Commission Secretary to call the time that we are resuming again.
We are back in session at 11:01.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for being so prompt. All right. I believe, Ms. Stoughton, you're going to call your next witness. Am I correct?
I believe that there may have been questions from the commissioners.
Right. You're right. Yes. Commissioner Covington, I'm sorry. Did you wish to ask the chief any questions before calling the next witness?
Yes, Madam President, if I may.
Please.
Chief Nicholson, if any member who is being given, excuse me, I have a cold, leave, if during the course of their hearings, if they decide that they will take the COVID test, are they to have the ability to be reinstated?
I think, do you mean, Commissioner Covington, the vaccine?
The vaccine.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So if any member who's been given leave is different than, someone may be off on FMLA or baby bond or the like, and if they get the vaccination.
I'm sorry, Chief, it's hard to understand you. There's like a small reverb or something.
Yes.
That,
Okay, is this better?
that's a little bit better, yes, thank you.
Okay, I apologize. So, if any member who is being given leave then gets the vaccine and wants to come back, yes, but that is separate from what is happening here. So, for example, Mr. Covington, we have several people off on FMLA, caring for, a parent or a child or what have you. And when, and it may be for a year period, for 6 months, or whatever it is. But and if they are not vaccinated, by the time they come back to work, they must be vaccinated. But that is different than what we are talking about here. And I believe within the city, what I have seen prior is people typically have 2 years with the fire department, 2 years once they are separated to come back at the same rank. I believe any more than 2 years, they would have to go through the hiring process all over again. Does that make sense?
A little bit.
What can I clarify for you?
Okay, if a person is on family leave, they can come back within 2 years.
No. So if a person is on FMLA or family medical leave, typically we give FMLA for up to 1 year. That is the maximum I have seen. Now, during that time, if they want to come back to work, they must be fully vaccinated. And of course, they are welcome to come back to work. If they take the whole year and don't get vaccinated and want to come back, they will not be permitted to come back and will have to go through the whole administrative process. But if someone on FMLA ends up getting the vaccine, and they can come back to work 2 weeks after they've gotten that vaccine. So that's separate from what we're seeing here, Commissioner Covington. And what we're seeing here is a non-disciplinary separation. And I believe that when someone leaves the San Francisco Fire Department or is a non-disciplinary leave, or they just decide to leave, they have 2 years to be able to be hired back. And if they so choose, and I don't know what the health order or anything else would say, but they have 2 years to be to request their job back. After that 2 years, they would have to go through the hiring process. Is that more clear?
Yes, thank you. So they can request the job back under the circumstances that you've laid out. And who makes the determination as to whether their request for reinstatement is heard and approved or denied?
So that goes through Human Resources.
Human Resources makes the decision.
It goes through them, and they let me know what's going on, and I have never not approved one, so I don't know that I've actually approved or disapproved. I haven't seen one in my time here, but I know that it has been approved in the past.
Okay, so during your tenure, you have not been involved in that process.
That's correct.
All right, so when you say human resources, you mean the city and county of San Francisco's Human Resources Department?
Yes, in conjunction with ours.
Okay, so it is a collaborative decision.
I'm not sure exactly who plays what role in terms of the Department of Human Resources for the city and county. That would be something I'd have to look into.
Well, I understand since you haven't gone through the process that you may not know completely, but I think that this information is very helpful. Because it seems that, well, this not seems, the circumstance in which we currently find ourselves is that the health order cannot be amended by you, it cannot be amended by us, and it's a matter of where people stood on being vaccinated when the order was issued by the person who is essentially their commander in chief. So I'm glad that we had this short discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that conclude your questions, Commissioner Covington?
Yes, that clarified a number of things for me.
Thank you. Vice President Nicasio. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm going to take the opportunity to ask the chief a question before she's excused. As a point of clarification, Chief, in what you just narrated to Commissioner Covington, I'm picking it up from that if a member is separated from the department, in this example of an undisciplinary separation, they have 2 years in terms of qualifications to be make a request or an application to be hired back to the department through a process determined by what I understand HR in the department. Is that accurate, Chief?
Yes, sir.
And to that question, this has nothing to do with the sense of that if at that time the health order is still in place, that there needs to be a requirement of fully dosed for the member. I would assume, and you can just answer me yes or no to the best of your knowledge, that that member, in terms of being an applicant back to the city, would have to be fully compliant with the vaccine. Is that your understanding?
Thank you, Vice President Nicasio. That is my understanding. The vaccination is currently a condition of employment. So that is my understanding, yes.
Okay.
At this time. I can't predict the future, obviously.
Okay. I just want to be really clear and accurate to my information in terms of it, because there's been a lot of reference historically in terms of when COVID started to process to where we are now. But as Commissioner Covington has pointed out, the decision makers are more of the level of what I'm understanding, and it's just a comment, personal comment, on the level of the city department, HR. It sounds like clearly, and I would assume our local union representative 798 to work or dialogue on anything pertinent in terms of contemporary changes. Other than that, I just want to make sure I'm understanding this as the decision and the question is in front of us. Thank you very much, Madam President. That concludes my questions to the Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Are we now ready for the city's next witness?
President Feinstein, if I may redirect based on one of the questions that came up.
Yes, you absolutely may.
Okay, thank you. Chief, is being vaccinated a condition of employment for all city employees currently?
Yes.
And are all city employees required to be fully vaccinated as defined by the health order, regardless of whether they enter high-risk settings?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. And I apologize because you were entitled to that and I didn't give it to you. So my apologies. Okay.
Commissioner Feinstein, if you will, I would like to ask a question regarding that.
You may.
Chief, has the city granted exemptions to city employees?
Calls for speculation, but she can answer if she knows.
If she knows, she can answer. I agree.
I don't know. I actually don't know fully.
All right.
Let me take that back. The city has granted exemptions, but that's different than accommodations. So yes, the city has granted exemptions.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to ask, sorry, Chief, because I'm taking my own notes here, and you're saying exemptions have been granted and accommodations have not, you believe? Or just if you would...
Yeah, I apologize.
Now, I could ask the court reporter to read it back, but I don't... If you can just answer, just help me here, that would be beneficial.
Exemptions have been granted in the San Francisco Fire Department. Accommodations have not been granted in the San Francisco Fire Department due to the fact that we are public safety and some other reasons, but I can't speak for the entire city.
Right. All right, that's fair enough. Thank you. Okay. Are we... Miss...
I apologize. I just want to make sure that the record is clear on one thing.
Please.
Chief, when you say the department has granted exemptions, do you mean that the department has determined that an employee had either a sincerely held religious belief or a qualifying medical disability?
Yes.
Okay, and when you say, but the department has not granted accommodations, do you mean that the department determined that it could not accommodate those sincerely held religious beliefs or qualifying medical conditions?
Yes.
Okay, so the exemption process is that full process, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Morgan, sir.
Yeah, thank you, President Feinstein. Yeah, I had a question for the chief. I must have missed it. She might have already answered this, but I'm still kind of in the dark on this one. And I know I was looking at the letter that she sent to the commission, stating, at the bottom paragraph, stating the following chronology, details of the communications with Firefighter Beers received from the city and the department between September 7th and September 27th.
Commissioner Morgan, it's hard to hear you, or at least for me it is. I'm sorry. If I could just ask you to repeat that part again, maybe it was just me.
Okay. Yeah, I was referring to the letter. Yeah, that the chief sent a chronology of the time frame, or that correspondence with the Firefighter Beers, and it went on to say
November 3rd, 2021.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I'm with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then on the down at the second paragraph, he said between September 7th and September 27th, the department conducted an in-person meeting with non-compliant employees to reiterate a city's vaccination requirements and the vaccination dose deadlines, provided exemption requests, information, and resources if the employees had questions or concerns regarding the vaccine. And then went on to say the department conducted its meeting with Firefighter Beers on the 24th of September. Okay, now at this meeting, she claimed she was not offered the exemptions. Am I correct with that? Or she didn't know about them? All right. At that meeting, Chief, were you aware that she was aware that she can claim exemptions or accommodations for this, for the vaccination shots?
So our members, my staff had a script to follow in terms of information that they gave. But I was not in that meeting, so I don't know.
I'm so sorry. May I please have you repeat your answer? I was having difficulty hearing you.
Is this to Chief Nicholson, Madam Court Reporter?
Yes, I was to the chief. I didn't hear her answer.
All right, Chief, if you'd please repeat your answer.
Yes. Our staff that conducted these meetings had a particular set of points or scripts that they were to follow. I was not in the meeting with Firefighter Beers, so I don't know what was said. But it was supposed to be mentioned in that meeting, yes. And it states here that it was.
Was Chief Vello in that meeting, or do you know which chief was in that meeting, if there were one? Anyone from the fire department?
Yeah, there were several chiefs in the meeting, so taking different meetings. I don't know which one.
Okay, all right. Okay, you answered my question. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Ms. Stoughton.
Sorry, these keep coming up. Chief, if you can turn back to the documents in front of you, City Exhibit 1, I think it's Bates number 45. It's your general order.
Okay.
Do you see the top of the paragraph, paragraph 3, exemptions?
Yes.
Did this paragraph notify employees that they could request exemptions?
Yes, it did.
And is the general order dated August 10th, 2021?
Yes, it is.
I no further questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to get our next witness. Are we ready? All right. Hearing no objection, Ms. Stoughton, will you please call your next witness?
I'm calling Lucy Chu, and I'm texting her right now to log on.
All right.
And Maureen, can you tell me how long I have left?
3 minutes, 57 seconds.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure, because I can actually see Madam Secretary's clock, whether or not the deductions of time are being, I want to make sure that when commissioners ask questions, that deductions aren't being made of time for either side to present their case.
No.
Okay, thank you.
When
Because if we butt in, that shouldn't prejudice anybody from having the full time that we told them they would have.
I stop it at objection.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Good morning, Lucy. Can you turn on your camera?
Morning. Well, good morning, Ms. Chu. This is President Feinstein of the Fire Commission, and I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to be able to hear you, and the court reporter is not going to be able to hear you. So we need to do something with your microphone or whatever they call it when it's inside a computer.
How's this? Is this a little bit better if I'm closer to the TV?
Let me inquire, as the court reporter really is responsible for making the official record of these proceedings and needs to be able to hear. So I need to turn to her. Madam Court Reporter, can you hear the next witness.
Let me have you just say a sentence right now, if you could.
Okay. What do you need to say?
That's perfect. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Very good. Then Ms. Chu, I'm going to ask, please, if you'd raise your right hand, and I'm going to ask the court reporter to please swear you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Stoughton.
Morning, Lucy. Can you tell us your job title?
Senior Human Resources Analyst.
In your role as Senior Human Resources Analyst, did you have any part in the exemption review process?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever receive a request for either a religious or medical exemption from the vaccine requirement from Firefighter Beers?
No.
Did you do anything to confirm that you never received a request from her?
Yes.
And what did you do?
I searched my emails, both using her work email, private email, and then with her name to see if I had any correspondence with her about that.
Lucy, was there ever any deadline to submit exemption requests?
No.
Did the department continue to analyze exemption requests as they came in?
Yes.
Do you recall, Lucy, ever emailing, I apologize, do you recall ever sending hard copies of exemption requests to anybody?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, what was your practice when employees emailed you requesting exemption requests?
I would email them back with a copy of the forms attached to the email.
And did most employees, or how did most employees submit their exemption requests?
They would submit it back to me via email.
Thank you, Lucy. Nothing further.
All right. Is there cross-examination of Ms. Chu? And I'll
Yes,
turn to you first, Ms. Captain Rollins, as the representative, but you may defer to Firefighter Beers.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Feinstein. Good morning, Ms. Chu. So it's your testimony that no hard copies of any documentation was ever mailed to any member of the fire department?
I don't believe so. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think so.
Okay, did you receive requests from any member of the fire department to receive hard copy?
I don't think so.
Okay, and it's also your testimony that you received no communication from Firefighter Beers whatsoever regarding requesting a religious or medical exemption?
That's correct.
That's all I have. Jess, do you have any questions for me?
No, thanks, Captain.
All right. May this witness be excused?
The city has no redirect.
All right. I'm hearing no objection. Thank you, Ms. Chu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
Any further witnesses on behalf of the department?
No, the department rests subject to rebuttal.
All right. Let us move on to Firefighter Beers' case. I'm just making my note here. Okay. Are you, I'm not sure whether to direct this to Captain Rollins or to Firefighter Beers. How would you like to proceed at this time?
It'll be directed towards me, Commissioner Feinstein.
All right. Okay, sir. We're ready for you.
Okay. Per Firefighter Beers' statement, we have no witnesses to present in this case. I would respectfully request that all exhibits that were submitted in the binder be admitted as evidence on behalf of Firefighter Beers. And according to my calculations, by virtue of what the commission secretary had, Firefighter Beers was allotted an additional 3 minutes and 59 seconds for her closing. So I would just humbly, respectfully request that her closing remarks, she be allotted a solid 10 minutes to make her closing remarks, and she will be making those herself.
All right, and I just want to know, is there any objection to the admission of the exhibits and the pre-hearing, well, the pre-hearing statement is in the record because it was a pre-hearing statement, but the exhibits that were attached as, I have exhibits A through D. Am I correct about that, Firefighter Beers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And those are the exhibits that you're seeking to admit into the record at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Stoughton, do you have any objection?
No objections from the department, and we would ask that the department's exhibits be moved in as well.
I'm going to rule on both of those, and Firefighter Beers' exhibits are admitted into evidence as well as the city's exhibits. All right, so in other words, so now that the exhibits have been admitted, there's no further evidence from Firefighter Beers, and she is resting her case, correct?
Yes, just the other request that she would be allotted a full 10 minutes for her closing statements, and she will be making the closing statements herself.
I will do that, and the city will go first, and then we will hear from Firefighter Beers, and then the city, as it bears the burden of proof, has the opportunity for a rebuttal argument. So we will turn to to Ms. Stoughton.
Thank you, President Feinstein. The undisputed evidence presented here today established that the health order recognized that there were certain high-risk settings where public health needs dictate that all persons entering be fully vaccinated. The health order permitted exemptions based on a sincerely held belief or a disability, but specified that accommodation may not be possible for employees who work in these high-risk settings due to the inherent risks with the populations inside those high-risk settings. In this case, it is also the evidence before the commission establishes that Firefighter Beers did not request an exemption and was therefore not granted one. The chief testified that Firefighter Beers could enter a high-risk setting at any time in the normal course of her work. The chief also testified that it is impossible for a firefighter to perform the essential functions of their position if they are not permitted to enter a high-risk setting. And although not directly relevant here, since Firefighter Beers did not request an exemption, the chief also testified that relying on the health order, she determined that the department could not accommodate even those individuals who had a sincerely held belief because of the risks an unvaccinated employee would pose to the public that they serve as well as the city's workforce. Firefighter Beers' disagreement with the science and reasoning behind the city's health order is irrelevant to this proceedings. The health orders, the validity of the health order is outside the scope of the proceedings before the commission today. It's undisputed that Firefighter Beers had notice of her obligation to comply with the vaccination requirement. It's also undisputed that per the August 10th general order, Firefighter Beers had notice that she could request an exemption from the health order's requirement. It's also undisputed that Firefighter Beers did not request such an exemption. Firefighter Beers knew that she would be subject to a non-disciplinary separation if she failed to comply with the vaccination requirement. she made the decision not to do so. Therefore, as the chief testified, she can no longer perform the essential functions of her position. The department asks, therefore, that the commission uphold the chief's recommendation for a non-disciplinary separation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stoughton. And I will now turn at Captain Rollins, if I'm following what your wishes are as your representative, to Firefighter Beers for closing. I need you to say something.
Yes, ma'am.
For the record, thank you. All right, Firefighter Beers, please proceed.
Okay, I'm going to keep this rather short and to the point. After all the research, studies, trials, and real-time data, I could throw pages and pages of facts on the table. I could spend hours and hours trying to convince the commission of the proven and documented major side effects possible.
Okay, I'm sorry, Firefighter Beers. I don't mean to interrupt you, but we do have a court reporter who is taking down your words on, a reporting machine, and I need you to slow down a little bit because otherwise she can't do that. So if you just could go a little slower, that would be much appreciated.
I could spend hours and hours trying to convince the commission of the proven and documented major side effects possible. The countless unexplained deaths in young, healthy individuals, all after which receiving these so-called vaccines. I could show you case after case of breakthrough infections in fully vaccinated and boosted individuals. I could pull up the amount of times the CDC and other reliable, trusted sources have changed, deleted, or adjusted their tunes and wording to fit the narratives and push agendas for the so-called FDA-approved vaccine. A vaccine now so devastating and detrimental to a lot of us in our careers and livelihoods that we are currently being forced out of, yet it cannot even provide total protection and prevent the spread or contraction of COVID-19. Yet in this case, we are still being fired for being a public threat, being unvaccinated. Being a Christian my whole life, growing up in small private Christian schools during the week and church every Sunday, I never once had to prove my faith or Christianity to anyone but God. I never once had to ask for permission, an exemption, or an excuse to have faith and practice my religion. And I'm sure not going to do it now. The swamp known as the San Francisco Fire Commission will not dictate or give me permission to practice my religion how they see fit, nor does it get to decide what I do and do not put into my body. Those are my God-given American rights that I proudly stand true by, and are also stamped and stated in the Constitution on which our very country was founded on and has thrived for so many years. As tough as this whole process has been, or lack thereof, at the end of the day, I answer to no one but my God. So at this point, I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm sure the commission will have deliberating to do, and someone will get in touch with me afterwards. So I'm just going to wrap this up with my statement being sure to point out the one who created and made this whole mess possible. And in case you can't read my shirt, let's go, Brandon.
Okay, is there a rebuttal from the city? I can't hear you, Ms. Stoughton, sorry.
I apologize, I had muted myself. There is not.
All right, so this matter, in terms of evidence, is concluded. At this time, the commission needs to determine whether it will proceed to deliberations in open session or closed session. I'm sorry, Vice President Nicasio.
Madam President, clarification to you and Mr. Rusky. I would like to ask the member a question, and I'm looking to see if it's an appropriate time within this hearing to do that.
She left the meeting.
All right, thank you very much for that information. I withdraw my request.
All right. There's nothing we can do if she left the meeting. So you can consider your request withdrawn. All right. Let's get to whether we're going to proceed to deliberations in open session or closed session. Obviously, we will report out if we go into closed session what the determination of the commission is. Do I have any motion by any of the commissioners as to how you would like to proceed? Yes, Vice President Nakaja.
I'd like to move to go into closed session for deliberation, Madam President.
All right, is there a second?
Yes, I second it, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Commissioner Morgan. It's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary,
President Einstein, how do you vote?
for closed session deliberations.
And Commissioner Covington, how do you vote?
Closed session.
The motion is unanimous. We will go into closed session at 11:38. And I'll put the court reporter and Mr. He left.
No, who?
Floyd,
Rollins is here.
Yeah, I'll put you into as an attendee, Mr. Rollins, and then bring you back in.
And you'll do the same for me, Maureen?
I'll do the same for you. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
And since we're not on the record,
Hold on. We are. I've got to go into closed session.